Uh, we're tackling the third part of the codefight bot, the cfbot challenge. And typically the third part of it, you can see it flashing here, is the hardest and the most involved. So the challenge we've been given this time is we're given a bit of code, a bit of source code, program code, something like that in source, and this is a list of strings of lines of code, and we have to count all the non-comment characters. All right, so a line comment can start with 2 slashes, as we do in JavaScript and C and C++. We can also have multi-line comments that start with slash star and end with star slash. So these ones are terminated by a carriage return. They finish at the end of the line, and these ones here are multi-block. So we'll have a go. One thing that we could really use is a function to count non-space characters. So it's the non-space characters we want to count. So I'm going to make up a function to do that, and I'm going to put that function in source. Okay, so if I start off with var count non-space, and this is a function, and it's going to take as a parameter in the line number that we're interested in, and we're going to count the non-space characters and return that as a value. So a simple loop will do. So for var I equals 0, I is less than ln.length I++. What we want to do is to count. So let's set up an accumulating variable here, character count equals 0, and inside, if that character ln I does not equal a space, then we'll update we'll update the character count. And having done that, we'll return cc. Okay, so that function there should check everything except that I said that was going to be a line number. So I wanted to pass in a line number, which means that it's not line number, it is source of line number that I want to look at. And here this is source of line number. And notice that I'm relying on this variable here being accessible inside this function. So I haven't had to pass in source explicitly. I can reference source because I declared this function inside the other function, and so it's got access to the local variables of the outer function, and I'm taking advantage of that. So to get all the non-space characters, I'm not doing anything about comments just yet. I have to go through each line and I have to check, count that. So let's have another accumulating variable. So this is total character count. Start that out at 0, and I'm going to have a loop that goes through every line of source and adds up that CSN. So for var I equals 0, I is less than source.length I++, and I'm going to say TCC plus equals CSN of the line I'm on, which is I. Now I've used I inside this function and I've used I outside the function. They shouldn't interfere because this is locally declared. So I reckon that's going to work. Let's return the total character count. And that should work for an example that doesn't have any comments in it. So we'll give that a go. And we didn't pass a lot of tests. It's not telling me which tests here it passed. Oh, I didn't want to submit. I wanted to run the samples. That was silly. I knew I wasn't ready for that. Failed test 1. But it passed test 3, and test 3 is a single line without comments, and it found 30. It skipped that space and it skipped that space. That's good, so it's working on a line without comments. Let's see if we can deal with a more complicated case, one that's got a line comment in. So let's look at test 1. That's got a //1 there. Oh no, it's got a more complicated one there. I'm looking for a simpler test. I could write my own, but I'm hoping one of these tests is simple. That one's too hard as well. I'm looking to make some little progress. So what I could do, for example, is find the first occurrence of the // character // pair. And there's a function to do that in JavaScript, and the function is called index of or instra or something like that. I happen to have this Mozilla thing open. Tempted to use the search here, although I'll do what I usually do. I usually just go straight to Google. So I want to come back to this site. MDN will ensure that I get a result back from here. I'm interested in JavaScript, and I think the function is called index of. Okay, that's it. It is called index of, and it's a big O for of. So the way index of works, it will find the index in an array, and we're using a string in this case. If you ask for index of 2 in this array, you get 0 back because that's in position 0. If we'd asked for 9, we'd have got 1 back. And if you ask for something that isn't there, then you get a -1 back. So it indicates a failure to find with -1. So let's say P1, this is the position, the first kind of comment is source I dot index of, and it's // we're looking for. Okay, so if we find a // in our string, then we know everything after that // is comment. Okay, so well, let's treat -1 as a special case. So if P1 equals -1, then we just do what we did before, which is that. And if that's not the case, we're going to have to do something more complicated. But it's not the case. What I want to do, well, I want to find all of the non-space characters in I, and I want to find them from P1, which is where the thing occurred. No, from 0 up to P1. So I'm interested in finding, I want TCC to equal, so it's count non-space characters of line I, and I'm going to say starting from 0 up to and not including P1. Now that has changed this function. So this function here, CSN, I want that to go from start to end. So only count from the first character to the last character. So let's change this loop so it goes from start and it goes to end. Less than end, not counting end. But I want it to work in this case here where I've given 3 parameters. I also want it to work in this case here where there's only 1 parameter given. And so what I'm going to do is set up defaults for S and E. That's the start and the end. I'm also going to make these a bit more. Let's make this the first, and this is the last. First character and last character. That's nicer. So that's first character and last character. That's actually one past the last character. Let's default these things. So if first is undefined, then we're going to set first equal to 0. So that's the default. And if last, and what last is a restricted variable, but what the hell. If last is undefined, then I want that to be source ln dot length. Okay, so that's defaulted those last 2. So this function should work just as it did before, but now it goes from start to end. Okay, I don't know if that's going to increase the number of tests that I will pass. At the moment, I'm only passing test 3. I'm hoping one of these 5 tests is a simple one. It's only got those single characters because I want to make some progress. So let's run on the sample tests. And it looks like I haven't made any progress. Oh, yes, I have. Look, test 5 is completed. Oh, but test 3 that was working previously is now no longer working. That's annoying. So we've broken test 3 somehow. We passed test 5. Test 5 has got no, I don't see how it's passed test 5. Shouldn't have passed test 5. I've just broken it. p is -1, and I'm tempted to put in my own test. How do I make up my own test? Add a custom test. So the custom test I want to try is a single line that goes ABC//DEF, and the output should be 3. It should count ABC, and it should not count anything after that. Let's try that. So show all tests, and my custom test, it passed. Let's edit that custom test, make it a bit harder. Let's put in some spaces here and check it still works. Show all tests. Yep, still passing that one. What happens if we try a second line? So my second line is just quotes, and we've got X, Y, Z in there, which should bring the total to 6. Try that. Looks like it's failed my custom test. Okay, so it looks like I've broken it. It looks like the simple case here. If P1 equals -1, then that seems not to be working. Okay, can I add another sample test? So let's go back to this one here that worked okay, and we'll focus on 3, so that one works okay. The test that was working before was this one here, so 3 was working before. That was a nice simple one, single line without comments, and that's no longer working. Try and figure our way around. Why have we broken this? So I equals that, so this is the loop, this is finding the index of that. In the case when it doesn't find it, I'm doing P1 is checking to see if that equals -1. Now that should happen in this case here. There was no comments in there, so P1 should have been -1. And TC should have done that. Okay. So, can't see what could possibly be going wrong there. First to last, first to last. Don't know what's going on. Let's try some debugging. So console.log. We are in count non-space, and our parameters are ln, first, and last. Let's see what that looks like. Run that, and we're looking at the I spelled console wrong. Try that again. ls is not defined. No, it's not. That should be ln. Okay, test 1, test 3. This is the one that I'm interested in. What's wrong with that? So CNS0 undefined, that's true. Did it work putting my defaults in? Copy that line and put it here after we have filled in the defaults. Let's try that. And again, it's test 3 I'm interested in. Oh, second one didn't work. So it said here if last is undefined, what am I doing? That should be last equals. Okay, so if last was undefined, last equals source.length. Good. Run that, and now looks like I'm passing some tests again. So test 3 is working. My custom test is working. And I think, no, 5's not working, and it shouldn't be working yet. Okay, so we're dealing with this case here where I've got a single comment, a line terminated comment, but I'm not coping with these more complicated ones where I've got a comment that starts with a /* and ends with a */. There it is there. Okay, so quite a few complicated cases to deal with, and at this stage I'm regretting this approach and wishing I'd gone with a finite state machine. But what the heck, let's just plug on. So in order to cope with the multi-line comments, we have to have a state. We have to know, are we in a multi-line comment or not? So in multi-line comment equals false to start with. And let's put in the comment, this is, are we in multi-line comment in multi-line comment. So we start off by saying we're not. And if we're in a multi-line comment, we're not going to be doing any of these things. So if we are in multi-line comment, then do some clever stuff, otherwise do the simple stuff. So this is the simple stuff. Put that in the else case. If we're in a multi-line comment, then we're looking to end that multi-line comment. If we're not in a multi-line comment, we've got to worry about have we just started a multi-line comment. Let's see if we're in a multi-line comment, if we're going to start a multi-line comment. So we'll set P2 is similar to the one above, source I dot index of, and we're looking for the start of a multi-line comment, which is what that thing would look like. Okay. Now, if the P2 happens before the P1, we've got to do something different. If the P1 happened before the P2, then the code we've got works. So this code here that we've got, this code, this is all good, but only if we've found, well, there's a couple of cases. Let's try them out. So if P1 happened before P2, then we're going to do that. If P1 happened before P2, but there's other cases as well. If P1 is greater than or equal to 0 and okay, so if we found a single line comment, so that's saying we found a single line comment, and either it happened before that or P2 is -1, then we'll do this stuff. Actually, we don't need this test anymore. So now I'm saying if we didn't find a multi-line comment, or we found the single line comment before we found the multi-line comment, then we do that stuff there. Okay, that's because that dominates. Now the other case we've got to consider is what happens if it's the P2 that's important. So if we found the multi-line comment, if P2 is greater or equal to 0, so we found the start of a multi-line comment, what are we going to do? Okay, this is going to be complicated because there may be more than one multi-line comment on the list, and I really don't want to have to deal with that. Planning on giving this up. Nah, won't give it up. So, in this case here, we found a multi-line comment, and what we want to do first off is set in multi-line comment equals true. And let's count all the characters up to, we'll count all the characters from where we are, which is 0, and we'll go up to P2, which is where the multi-line comment starts. So I will say tcc plus equals count non-space. We're on line I, we're starting at position 0, and we're going up to P2, which is where that multi-line comment started. Okay, I'm liking that. It's not coping with like the case where there are two multi-line comments on a single line, and it's not yet dealing with this case here. Let's take this case here. So we're in a multi-line comment, and we're looking for the end of that multi-line comment. So let's say var e2, this is the end of the multi-line comment, equals, where are we at? It's source I dot index of star slash. That's how you end the multi-line comment. So if we found one of those, then we want to count everything beyond there. So we'll say total plus equals, we're going from equals count non-space, position I. Now the first position is going to be E2 plus 2, because E2 gives us the position of this thing here. We don't count that character, we don't count this character, we don't count this character. So moving 2 on from that up to the end of the line. If I leave that blank, it will fill it in with the right default. So this is going to work, I hope, for a whole bunch of cases. Nothing like every case, but it's a place to start. Let's run sample tests and see how we're doing. It's discouraging. Show all tests. So we don't seem to be coping with any tests that we weren't coping with before. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get some more information out of our debugging. So that one there, don't need that anymore. So ln first and last. Let's also look at the output. So ln first and last. Let's look at ln on its own, and also ln dot substring, starting from first. That's pretty much not how substring works. Let's check how substring works. Now there are two functions. One is substr and one is substring. You see two of them, and one of them is good and the other one's bad, and I can never remember which. Let's take a look at this one. So from start to length, number of characters we return. Okay. Not supported by Microsoft JScript. This is the bad one, I think. Browser compatibility. Looks good. What about substring? And the browser compatibility. Yeah, looks like all of the browsers do both of them. I can't for the life of me remember what the difference is. So this one is in the first edition VCMA script. Substra. Alright, I cannot for the life of me remember what the difference is between them. Length is negative, alright. Okay, but I know that's last, that's the position, whereas I think substrate said it takes the number of characters. No, length, that's the good one actually. So start is start and length. So when you were doing substrate, it's start and length. Whereas when we do substring, is that start and length? Ah, start and end index. Ah, that's fantastic. So end index happens to be the thing that we've got. So this thing here is end index, which means that we want to be using substring rather than substra. Wow. I'm going to remember that. Not. Okay, so this is CSN. That's this should be source of the line that I'm on. And let's see the full line as well. So copy and paste. So I think when we debug, this is showing me the line that we're looking at, and this is showing me the characters that we're counting. Let's try that. So test one, that's really quite a complicated test. I don't know if I want to be doing this. Okay. So here's my input. My input int a equals 2, that's fine, that didn't get changed. And this one here goes int b, and then there's a start of multi-line character. So here's the int b, and will you look at that? I am counting all the characters. Oh no, that's the whole thing. Okay, I need these two things next to each other. Let's put that there, and console.log of that, and console.log of that. Okay, now I should be able to see what's going on. So the first line that comes in, that's that, and that's what I count. Second line that comes in, that's the int b, and that's the thing I'm picking up. That looks good. And that's the start of a multi-line comment. That multi-line comment stopped on the same line. That's why my program's not working. I haven't dealt with that case. Forget test 1. Test 2. Be nice if I did something right. There's a multi-line comment starting. So that's the multi-line comment starting. There should be 0 characters. I seem to be counting these 2 characters. So I'm throwing that away and throwing that away. So this thing here, that should be thrown away, I think. I should be throwing away the star slash. Let me check my code. So we come in, we start that character here. And this is a P2. P2 is greater than or equal to 0. In multi-line comment equals true, yes. And P2 should have been 0. So this one here, I think I'm calling this with CSN 00. CSN ln start, no, first and last. Let's run it again. This is test 2 I'm looking at, not test 1, test 2 I'm looking at. So my first call is straightforward, this call here. CSN line 1, 0 to 2. What does line 1 look like? Slash star. Star slash. That's the start of a comment. For some reason, here on line 1, I'm calling it with 0, 2, and I should be calling it with 0, 0. Okay, I'm not interested in CSN. That's this case here. P2 is greater than or equal to 0. Set multi-line comment equals true. Total character count plus equals P2, but P2 should have been 0. Source.index of slash star. That's peculiar. That's when I equals 1. Because I think in line 1, the line has just got this on it. And if you do index of that, it should give me 0. P2 should be 0. P1 is less than P2. This case is being caught. So P1 was -1, P2 was 0, and so that passes. Alright, so this rule here, I thought I was coping with that, but I'm not. Okay, so this is me trying to cope with the not found a P1, and I thought I was dealing with that. So let's change this case. So this case is only dealing with P1 is greater than or equal to 0. So we have found a single line character comment, and it either happened before the P2 or there was no P2. All right, which means that this case here is now redundant. That's not happening. Take that out. Okay, and then the final case, So that's if P1 and that's if that, and then there's another case there where we didn't find any comments. So if P1 is -1 and P2 is -1, in that case then TCC plus equals CNS of just ln no I. Alright, and we won't bother putting in the other parameters, so that's the case where no comments were found. Try that. Okay, let's cheer ourselves up, see some green dots. Yeah, we're not very cheered. Test 5, wasn't that working before? Oh. Output is 0. Expected output is 3. Okay, I was looking at test case 2, I think. Let's working through it slowly. Okay, so first call, no comments. That's the line we process. That's the line we're given. Second line, that's the line we're given. We're processing nothing. That's good. Third line, that's the line we're given, and we should have thrown everything away. We should have thrown the whole lot away because we were in a multi-line comment. So in multi-line comment, E2 equals that, and we're adding this in, but what if we didn't find it, didn't take that into account? So this is only true if E2 is greater than or equal to 0. If it's not, we didn't find the end of a multi-line comment, else we'll do nothing. Bah. I'm tempted to put something in here. TCC plus equals 0. Ah, what the hell, make it work for nothing. Let's run the samples again, and see if we've got made any progress. No, no progress. Let's look at test 2. Okay, we were working our way through test 2. In this case here, that all looks good. We've missed some stuff though. That's the start of a comment. That's a multi-line comment. This one here. At this point here, we hit the end. We hit the end of the multi-line comment, so let's celebrate. We found a way out of the comments. We'll celebrate by saying in multi-line comment equals false. If it's a toggle, you've got to toggle it off sometimes. Run that. Come on, let's have test 2. Oh yeah, test 2 is passed. Look at that. So we've got lovely green there. So we've got test 2 being passed. Okay, so we've got cases like this where I have a multi-line comment starting there and ending there. So if a multi-line comment starts and ends in the same line, we're not dealing with that case very well. Okay, so I really don't like this. I don't like that I'm running through the source one line at a time. That's not helping. I was kind of tempted to stick everything into one line and put carriage returns in there. I don't want to have to write this code over and over again. You see, it's because this code here, that needs to run at the after we've found the multi-line comment. So this is us finding the multi-line comment here. So after that's happened, we really want to be running this code again without I having been increased. But instead of starting at index of the beginning, we want to start a little bit further along. That's nasty, nasty, nasty. Can't think of a neat way to save myself and to repeat this code. This code here, I've kind of put into a while loop here. Horrible. I'm going to pause while I think about that.